Is Sweden socialist? Short answer, it's complicated. Let's start with the actual structure of Sweden's economy. Sweden has many features that are clearly capitalist. It allows widespread private ownership of businesses, land and capital. It consistently ranks high in economic freedom indexes, has a school voucher system and allows private providers in the system. And it also has a surprisingly large number of billionaires per capita. Most firms operate in competitive markets, prices are largely set by supply and demand, and profit is an organizing principle of economic life. At the same time, Sweden also has features that are often associated with socialist ideas. The state plays a significant role in redistribution, taxes are relatively high, and labor unions are relatively strong. The welfare system is extensive, covering healthcare, education, pensions, parental leave, and unemployment insurance. In addition, many services are organized collectively and publicly funded, even when delivered by private actors. In other words, Sweden's economy contains both capitalist and socialist-leaning elements. It's neither a free market system with libertarian leanings, nor a centrally planned economy. Instead, it's best described as a mixed economy. Market-based production combined with collective risk-sharing and social insurance. Now we need to clarify what we mean by socialism. Socialism is a broad and contested concept, and there has never been a single definition that everyone agrees on. However, a common working definition, especially in political theory, is collective ownership of the means of production. And means of production is like factories and what drives the economy, basically. And when people describe Sweden, they often use terms like democratic socialism or social democracy. But these terms are not crystal clear either. Some scholars argue that these concepts largely overlap and are sometimes created, or sometimes treated, I should say, as near synonyms in the political science literature. Others draw a sharper distinction and says that social democracy accepts capitalism, including private ownership of the means of production, but seeks to tame it through regulation, progressive taxation, strong labor protections, and a large welfare state. Democratic socialism, on the other hand, by this view, still aims at collective ownership of the means of production, but insists that it should be achieved through democratic and gradual reforms rather than a proletarian revolution. For clarity, I think it is most helpful to, at least in a modern context, use social democracy to describe a regulated capitalist economy with a largely universal welfare state, rather than calling it socialism in the classical sense. But both democratic socialism and social democracy wants to work within a democratic system. So, is Sweden socialist? If you by socialist mean collective ownership of the means of production, then no, Sweden is not socialist. If you mean by socialist a capitalist economy combined with strong welfare institutions, redistribution and regulation, then Sweden does fit that description. But so does many other advanced market economies. The most accurate description, I think, is something like Sweden is a social, democratic, capitalist economy and not a socialist one.